In 2011, an 8-year-old girl named Gabi Mann started dropping food for crows in her Seattle backyard. Nothing fancy, just a dropped chicken nugget here, some breadcrumbs there. Within a few months, the crows started leaving things on her empty feeder. A pearl-shaped heart, a pair of earrings, Lego pieces, buttons, bits of sea glass. Over 4 years, they brought her more than 100 objects. Then her mother lost a camera lens cap in an alley down the street. A crow returned it to the feeder within days. This is not a fairy tale. This is documented, studied behavior. And once you understand why it happens, you will never look at a wild animal the same way again. Crows are not the only animals that bring gifts to humans, but they are the most studied. John Marsloff, a wildlife biologist at the University of Washington who has spent decades researching crow behavior, calls what Gabi experienced reciprocal altruism. In plain terms, the crow noticed she was consistently kind, decided she was worth investing in, and started bringing things it valued as a way of maintaining the relationship. The key word is maintaining. This is not random. Crows return to the same person. They wait for acknowledgement before flying off. They track whether you respond. If you ignore the gift, the behavior slows down. If you acknowledge it, it continues. The crow is running a social ledger and you are in it. Here is what makes this even more interesting. Crows do not universally love shiny things. That is actually a myth that controlled experiments have largely debunked. What they choose to bring is something they consider valuable in that moment. Sometimes it is a shiny button. Sometimes it is a piece of food. And sometimes, as John Marsloff has documented, it is dead prey. Because dead prey is what a crow would bring to a mate. When a crow brings you a dead mouse, it is not trying to gross you out. In crow terms, it is doing something close to the most generous thing it knows how to do. Dolphins have been documented doing something similar. At several marine research stations, dolphins regularly bring objects to specific researchers they interact with frequently. Shells, rocks, pieces of rope, objects they retrieved from the seafloor. The researchers who receive the most gifts are consistently the ones who spend the most time in the water with them. Duration and quality of interaction predict how often gifts appear. The dolphins are tracking the relationship in real time. Otters bring rocks, not to random humans, but to humans they know. Wildlife carers who have worked with injured otters often report that after the otter recovers and returns to the wild, it will occasionally surface near the same person and leave a stone on the bank. Researchers are appropriately careful about projecting meaning onto this behavior. They note that otters carry their favorite rocks throughout their lives, pressing them to their chests, sleeping with them, using them to crack open shellfish. Leaving one behind is not a small thing. There is one more species worth mentioning: chimpanzees. Researchers working long-term field sites in Africa have documented wild chimpanzees bringing food items specifically to human researchers they have known for years, placing fruit or leaves near them in what observers describe as a clear, intentional gesture. These are not captive animals being rewarded for behavior. These are wild chimpanzees choosing to share with a specific person. Jane Goodall documented versions of this at Gombe decades ago. The behavior has been replicated enough times across different field sites that researchers no longer treat it as unusual. So why does this happen at all? Why would a wild animal go out of its way to bring something to a human? The answer starts with intelligence. Gift-giving in the animal kingdom requires several cognitive pieces to be in place at once. The animal has to recognize you as an individual, not just a human in general, but specifically you. It has to remember past interactions with you. It has to have some model of what you might value, and it has to be motivated to maintain the relationship rather than simply move on. This is a surprisingly short list of species. Crows meet every condition. So do dolphins, great apes, and elephants. These are not coincidentally the same animals that researchers consistently rank at the top of non-human crow case is the precision of it. When Gabi's mother lost her lens cap, a crow did not bring back a random object. It brought back the specific thing that belonged to her. Researchers debate whether this reflects true understanding of ownership or a more mechanical process of associating the object with the person. But either way, the crow was paying close enough attention to notice the cap was missing and to retrieve it. That level of attention to a specific human's belongings is remarkable from an animal with a brain the size of a walnut. The obvious question is whether any of this involves something like affection. Scientists are careful here. It is genuinely hard to prove internal emotional states in animals that cannot report them. What we can say is that the behavior looks functionally identical to how crows treat their mates and close allies within their own species. The same behaviors aimed at you. Whether the crow feels something during this exchange in a way that resembles human emotion is genuinely unknown. What is not unknown is that the crow has made a choice to treat you as part of its social world and is acting accordingly. If you want to end up on the receiving end of this, the research from Marsluff and others is actually pretty clear on what works. These are not guesses. They are conclusions drawn from watching hundreds of crow-human relationships develop over years. Consistency matters more than quantity. Crows respond to regular, predictable presence more than to large occasional offerings. They need to recognize your face specifically, which means showing up often enough that they can map your features, and they respond to acknowledgement. Nodding at a crow that has left something on your feeder is not silly behavior on your part. It is, by the available evidence, the correct response. One more thing worth knowing. Crows live up to 20 years in the wild. Whatever relationship you build with a crow in your backyard, that bird may still remember you a decade from now. It will remember whether you fed it during a hard winter. It will remember if you were ever unkind. The social ledger they keep is not a short track of her family for years now. They know her face, her mother's face, and the faces of the neighbours who have been consistently unkind to them. Those neighbours get dive-bombed. Gabi gets gifts. It turns out that how you treat the animals around you is something they notice and remember, and sometimes they find a way to show you which side of that ledger you are on.